It is April 23rd, and we are back for another Parca Office Hours. We have some nice improvements, topics, etc. Lined up for today. First of all, we are following the CNCF Code of Conduct, even though we aren't like a CNCF project. We're just so used to following that conduct in like Prometheus, Thanos, all the other projects. So for Parca, we are also following it. So yeah, please be excellent and nice to each other. And with that out of the way, I think we are starting with some UI changes that Yomi wants to talk about. Take it away.
Yes, thanks, Matthias. So from the UI side, so two things that I'd like to talk about today is, first, we fixed the bug that we noticed in the recent past weeks, where if you had already loaded Parca and you selected a profile on the metrics graph, if you happen to refresh the page, it doesn't remember the profile that you clicked. But Manoj was able to provide a fix for that, and that works really good now. So that's the first thing. And the second thing was something that was sort of alluded to, I think, in the last office hours, where I think maybe it was Manoj that talked about it, is that we are looking at revamping the way filtering for binary works. When you click on the show legend button that shows up on the icicle graph. So currently the way it works is that if you select it, if you click on a filter, it sort of just highlights the stacks that binary belongs to. But what we want to do actually now is to actually only actually load the icicle graph data. So instead of just highlighting, we'll actually only show the graphs that belongs to that particular binary. But one thing that we also sort of discussed internally is that to do that, if we actually do that, there might be a weird UI, maybe it's a bug, maybe it's not a bug, but like, for example, if there's a list of binaries and you select them, if you click on one binary, it could mean that after clicking on one binary, you don't see the other binaries again. So the other thing that we're going to do in addition to this is maybe expose another API to have all of the list of binaries. So by that, clicking on a binary, we use that API to display the binaries that you see on the UI, right? So once we have that available, if you do click on a binary, we won't get to have that scenario whereby all of the other binaries disappear. We will persist all of the binaries that belongs to the profiling data. So those are like the two, I guess they come hand in hand. So those are the two things I would like to do for filtering the icicle graph by binary. So that's something that I'm working on this week. Maybe next week or before the next Parca Office Hours, this time zone, maybe we should be good on that. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think especially the filtering, once you have like the agent running and like 10, 15 or like 20, 30 plus, whatever, how many binaries you have, then this really makes a lot of sense to do.
Yeah.
I can also show it like in just a second, because I'm like going to share my screen anyway. But yeah, like down here, right, like you have the legend, and if you have like, imagine again like 20, 30, like however many binaries, like right now it just highlights whatever part is shown, but we want this to like actually filter out only that specific binary once you click on it. So we need to make some API changes, etc., for that to work. Yep. So looking forward to that landing. Should be good, especially in combination with the agent. Yeah. Any questions to any of that from anyone else? All right. Nice. Looking forward. So I've been also working on some profiling stuff in the last week, which has been super fun. And you can see already for, I think, like 3 to 6 months, we are showing the per second CPU cores in the metrics graph. So you can see like 0.00 cores per second, 0.8, 0.8, whatever. So we show not only like the total like 40 milliseconds, but like broken down per second, kind of like a rate function in Prometheus, which is kind of helpful to, again, in this scenario, graph it and have it like visualized, especially if the underlying duration that you profile for differs a lot. So right now we have like 10 seconds duration. So essentially we take the 6 milliseconds and the 60 milliseconds here and divide it by 10 seconds. And that's how we get to like the cores per second. And something that we wanted to do for a very long time is to do something similar for the icicle graph. So now you can see I'm running on a branch here. On this branch, we show the per second cores per second as well. So you can see like 0.028 cores. And when you drill down, you get like even fewer cores, right? So this is kind of like interesting because like now we're taking these like last 15 minutes and we're like crunching all of these numbers. So you can see that like previously we've seen that for this one, we would have had like 410 milliseconds over whatever the underlying duration is. But now we take that and we divide it by the sum of the duration of that icicle graph, and we get to the 0.041 cores per second. And it's nice to have, but I think the most important aspect of all of this is being able to now finally compare profiles and compare them with this like kind of like normalized in a way CPU cores per second value, right? So we can now see we have like 0.002 cores per second, but previously we only had 0.001 core, and we gotten some 0.001 cores more per second. So the reason why this is important here is now we can say, okay, like take this one specific profile here and compare it to like the entire merged profile on the right-hand side. So all of this combined. And all of a sudden we can do this. Like if we just would have taken like the 80 milliseconds total profile here and compared it to all of this, like the numbers would have like been like 10 times as much in also in like all the function calls, right? Because we like, I don't know, would have had like collected 10 times more data on the right-hand side. But now we like normalize it down to the per second value and on both sides. So now we can like show you that like actually like yeah, this has improved significantly and differs quite a lot. Whereas like some other stuff, if you break it down to the per second cores per second, like they didn't change a lot. So especially once you like go into comparing like all of these time ranges of like different time ranges, like 2 minutes on the left-hand side, 10 minutes on the right-hand side. This becomes now a lot more usable, which it was previously, it was usable mostly if you like made sure that like you compare 5 minutes on the left-hand side and 5 minutes on the right-hand side. But now you don't need to take care of any of this, and it will, yeah, again, normalize both sides and then do the comparison, right? So that's pretty good. And we can see like here, nothing changed because like this gotten worse, this gotten slightly worse, but this overall has gotten better. So like this didn't even like change in the cumulative amount that was run per second. So yeah, this should be pretty good, and hopefully making comparisons way more usable and trustworthy, I want to say, going forward. And then there's also like some follow-ups where if you run the Parca agent like on one environment with like 19 hertz per second, but like on another like development environment, you run it like 100 hertz per second, right? So they're like different underlying numbers. So we'll need to make sure that we also normalize by this, and then we can also compare all of these data points. And yeah, finally comparing profiles will be will be actually super simple and not that intricate anymore. Any questions? Something I didn't show. If you then sort by the diff, it also now works a lot better, because like previously we would have used the cumulative value to compare, or the diff value, but now we use the ratio of how much it gotten worse or better. So you can like see like all the worst ones are moved to the left. So those are usually the ones you want to focus on the left hand side here, and you can like probably ignore the ones that have gotten better over time, right? Yeah. Again, any questions? Happy to answer anything that isn't clear. It was kind of a deep dive. All right. Then something else that Frederick is currently working on, I want to like highlight and point out, is that Parca itself has been using Badger as our meta store, and Badger didn't really have any retention. So basically, like all the debug info and symbols that we then receive from Parca Agent get stored into Badger, but while like yeah, like there can be a retention for all the profiling data that we write into on disk or object storage with Apache Parquet. All the like Badger data never had any retention policies and was always kind of like slow and brittle. So Frederick is finally revamping the symbolizer, and the idea is, I think so far, that like all of the data for symbolization also lives in FrostDB. So all of the data will also be written next to the profiling data. All the like symbols will be written into the Apache Parquet files that FrostDB writes to disk or object storage, and then it can be handled all the same. And hopefully Parca becomes a lot easier to operate. So that's something where we are going to definitely also be sending some changes to Parca upstream, which should be pretty good. Any questions on that side?
So is the Badger stuff gone, or are we storing something else there still?
No, I think we only store the symbols, so only like the debug infos that we receive. We take them, we convert them, and then we store them into Badger, and all of that should be gone. So there shouldn't be any like Badger dependency after the work that Frederick is doing, and we only rely on FrostDB going forward.
Cool.
Yeah, good question. All right, then if there's nothing else, we have some updates from the Parca Agent team. And I guess, Tommy, you want to take it away and unshare my screen?
Sure. Yes, apologize if there's any background noises, but I'll try to keep it quick. So I think we were hoping Brendan would join. Did he join? He did not join. Anyway, all right, we have a new engineer. So that's exciting. And one of the first things he did, actually, this kind of goes back to when he wasn't at Polar Signals, but back when we first started talking to him, or actually, this is kind of, I guess, when I was first started working, was the mysterious, like, why some of my CPUs aren't showing up samples issue that's a couple months old at this point. We thought we fixed that by fixing the how we determine how many CPUs the machine has, and I think that did fix something, but there was still this kind of lingering issue. People it got to the point where if the agent was running for a long enough time, it would just stop generating samples at all. It's not like missing CPUs, it's missing all CPUs. Anyway, that's not fun. That's not good. So happy to say that we got the solution for that. And it just turned out to be that there was some certain error paths that weren't handled appropriately on our event listeners, and if an event listener go routine died, then basically it would just stop processing samples for that CPU. If they all died, then basically the agent would go dark, which is not fun. So people were just restarting to get around it, but now that's fixed and they don't have to restart. So yay, Brennan. Otherwise, there's been some updates recently to fix new versions of Python. There's been some ARM fixes around PAC or pointer authentication for ARM. There's still some outstanding stuff for ARM, so we're not declaring victory with kind of base level ARM support, but I think we had kind of figured out what the issues are, so those should land pretty soon. As well as MUSL support. So if you want to run Alpine images, currently, depending on what you're profiling, may or may not work based on whether there's debug information in their executables. Well, it seems like a lot of folks, when they build things for Alpine, decide to strip the binaries, so there are no debugging symbols, but they can be had from debug links if you download those packages. So we added support to follow those debug links and to process symbols from them. And that hopefully will land soon, so you can get profiling information from Alpine images or any other distro that uses MUSL. I guess in MUSL, pretty sure it's MUSL. Anyway, other exciting news, we're kind of going full bore on getting some preliminary support for Lua in there. And won't go too deep into the details. I'd linked to our issue that talks about this goes into the deep details, but it turns out to be very tricky to walk a Lua frame. So I say preliminary Lua support because we're going to support just walking the Lua frames, the Lua interpreter frames. Interpreter's not the right word to use there. The Lua language frames, because there's a JIT thing, and not show them intertwined with the native frames in all cases. So it will be, it should be useful. It might be a little imperfect first, but it should allow people to get going if they're using Lua, which is nice. And then also on the same front, we have some progress on Java support. A lot of the kind of testing infrastructure for what we need to support Java more fully is in progress. More fully means doesn't require an agent plugin to map JIT symbols to real symbol names, and doesn't require frame pointers to be enabled. So this will be any JVM image you want to use will just work out of the box. So that would be nice. I think that's it. I don't know if I missed anything key. If there's any questions or anything to add, feel free to chime in.
I guess the ask from the agent team is that people run the latest Parca Agent. But then again, we should probably also just like cut a release like after 6 weeks. So I think that should be good with all those fixes. But yeah, super exciting that like Parca Agent doesn't just crash anymore and stop working. So nice job, great work. And all of the other stuff that's like in the pipeline is pretty exciting as well. I don't have questions, but if anyone else has. Also, feel free to just write them into chat. All right. Any questions, not only to Tommy and the agent team, anything else people want to discuss or just talk about, ask? Right, I guess that's a no. Then I am happy to see you again in a month, beginning of end of May, I suppose. But we have another Parca Office Hour coming up in 2 weeks that is way earlier, so more suited for Asia and Europe, less for the US and the Americas. So if you are watching the recording and you want to join one of these and you are like more in the Asian countries, feel free to join the earlier calls in 2 weeks. Otherwise, we'll see each other again in a month. And let us know if you have any questions. Follow us on Twitter, Mastodon. Come and stop by the Discord chat. Let us know if you have any questions or if you run into anything. All right. Then see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.